Okay, so thank you so much, Whitney. And once again, Mayor Rudy Giuliani is saying at least 2,100 people had been injured, 600 of them taken to the hospital, 1,500 called walking wounded were taken across New York Harbor to New Jersey's Liberty State Park.
Again, we have some updates now, some new information. As we've been speculating, many have been speculating that Osama bin Laden had something significant to do with this attack on U.S. interests here in New York and in Washington. There had been a denial by the Taliban in Afghanistan earlier today. Again, bin Laden believed to be hiding out in Afghanistan, being harbored by the Taliban. The Taliban denying that bin Laden's involved, denying their involvement. However, a top U.S. law enforcement official who requested anonymity has said Osama bin Laden is at the top of their list of the suspects in what's happened here. Really no surprise, but a reaffirmation of what many believe, that only bin Laden would have had the strategy, the network, and the money to pull off this unprecedented, unbelievable, catastrophic attack on the United States. Even
though we had mentioned earlier that some of his followers had said, no, he doesn't have the money to do it, no, he's not responsible, it's not looking like that's the case. Yeah,
actually, there have been reports, and I believe CBS News has reported in the weeks previous to this, bin Laden is not as strong as he once was, that the money does not flow as it once did. However, if they're looking for terrorists who seem to have his handprints, fingerprints all over this, it will be Osama bin Laden. And again, there was that report that followers of bin Laden warned a London journalist 3 weeks ago that bin Laden would launch an unprecedented attack on the U.S., on U.S. soil. And here we are on September 11th with just such an attack.
Indeed. Let's go ahead and recap. At around 9 o'clock this morning, a plane crashes into the first tower of the World Trade Center. Roughly 10 minutes, 18 minutes after that, the second plane crashes into the second tower. Shortly after that, a plane crashes at the Pentagon. We initially thought it was near the Pentagon, but it was indeed at the Pentagon. We understand that 100 people have been injured as a result of that crash. Around 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. this morning, one World Trade Center tower collapsed. That's about an hour after it was hit by a plane. Shortly after that, the second tower also collapsed. Then we had a plane crash in Pittsburgh, another plane that had been hijacked. 8 planes in total had been hijacked. This was another plane that had been hijacked. Boom, it crashed. There was a fourth explosion to rock the World Trade Center at around 10:40. At this point, President Bush comes out to speak, and the United States begins tightening up security at all strategic facilities and evacuating high-profile buildings.
We should point out again, those 8 planes, the initial report said as many as 8 planes had lost contact. That was according to the Federal Aviation Administration. We now understand that the 4 planes lost are the only planes that they were concerned about at this time. The other 4 planes, if they had lost contact, were contacted. They are not believed to be in the skies over the United States at this point. Again, all air traffic across the U.S. has been shut down and will not resume until at least noon tomorrow. Again, at least noon tomorrow. As you see there at the bottom of your screen, we're updating the information constantly for you. U.S. Navy carriers, the JFK Carrier Group and the George Washington Carrier Group are on their way to New York to help protect the coast off New York.
And of course, the National Guard has been called out thanks to Governor Pataki. The governor and the mayor commending New York City, New Yorkers for the way they have behaved, the way they are handling this crisis. It has been a horrible day, but we have managed to very calmly try and get through this, and they have said repeatedly that they are very proud of the way we're handling ourselves. We do need to continue to help one another. If you can, go ahead and donate blood. It is a great idea to do so. The American Red Cross says right now we're not at a crisis point, but we might be, and O negative is really what they're missing.
We're anticipating another statement from Mayor Giuliani, perhaps in the next 10 minutes or so. Of course, we'll bring that to you live. Earlier today, the first words out of his mouth, New York is stronger than these barbaric terrorists. And that's something important to remember. And the mayor again adding that this is not a time to be frightened. It's a time to band together, which New Yorkers have done, and that we'll get through this. But it may be many days before we really can count up the true extent of the damage and the death that New York has experienced on this day.
I think it is very difficult for all of us to understand how the greatest superpower in the world, how this could happen to us.
Those are questions that are still to be answered. Obviously, right now, still trying to figure out who.
Contacts today, we've been working with the notion that a couple of hundred firefighters may be missing. Do you know anything about this?
We still have several hundred firefighters unaccounted for. Fire Department of New York, when they send an initial assignment to the World Trade Center, it involves about 125 firefighters on the initial assignment. And without a doubt, when they realize the severity of the situation, they dispatch greater alarms, and probably had between about 300 firefighters on the scene before the first collapse occurred. The issue here is now the criticality of the next 24 to 36 hours. We're moving from the initial impact of this incident to the rescue and recovery phases. And one of the challenges, as Jerry Hauer was saying, is that the desire for rescue. We find statistically that about 90% of the people that are rescued from building collapses are rescued in the first 24 hours. So this next time period will be very critical for the rescue of injured people.
Now, Mr. Priest, as you have talked to your colleagues in New York, where are you, by the way?
I happen to be in Denver today.
Right. As you've talked to your colleagues in New York, do you get any sense from them about whether what you describe as rescue and recovery is going to be more recovery than rescue?
I think it's going to be both. The World Trade Center is a horrific disaster. The primary rescue efforts will be taking place in the buildings that surround the World Trade Center. We have some 8 urban search and rescue teams on the way there now, but they will take at least 24 hours to become operational.
Is this one of those situations where fire departments, not dissimilar from a forest fire, where fire departments are coming in from long distances, or is there enough men and material in the immediate area to help?
I think from the initial response, fire departments from the New York area, surrounding New York City, New Jersey, Connecticut, and maybe even Pennsylvania, have already begun moving toward New York City. The urban search and rescue teams are coming from as far away as California.
What do you mean by an urban search and rescue team? Is this the same kind of team that would go to an earthquake?
Yes, these are the structural collapse rescue teams. And for New York City, there's 3 teams coming from California, 1 team coming from Massachusetts.
Mr. Breeze, let me interrupt you because we've had another building collapse. ABC's Bob Jameson. Bob Jameson? Okay. There has been another building collapse in lower New York. It may, we won't even speculate as to what it is, but another building has collapsed. Just reconfirming that when the 2 trade towers collapse, you see people moving. These people are not as close as they look. They're at some distance away because the police have kept them at this distance. And another building, and maybe, John, you can recognize this, in this immediate area. I'm not going to speculate that it's number 7, but because a number of buildings in the immediate adjacent area are vulnerable.
This is looking towards the World Trade Center, and that dark building in the upper left-hand corner is the telephone company on West Street. So this is a few blocks north, looking south. This is from 6th Avenue and Canal Street, looking south.
And do we know how close either you, I'm going to bring George Stephanopoulos in a moment, do we know how close this collapse might have been to the trade towers? You know the streets well.
What you see, the smoke coming up from this structure. I'm trying to discern from the pictures if that is the bottom of the World Trade Center or another building.
Okay, the Associated Press is just reporting. George Stephanopoulos, are you in a position? We think this is Trade Center building number 7, which has collapsed.
Yes, I'm not positive, Peter, but we are pretty sure that it is. One of our crew here saw it go straight down, and you're now trained on the plume of smoke coming